During the days of H.G. Wells, intellectuals truly believed that the world could be perfected through social engineering and scientific inquiry. The early 20th century could be characterized by its utopian hopes and ideals, even though this mode of thinking was tapered later on by the horrors of World War I. In Triumphs of a Taxidermist, H.G. Wells throws some cold water on the idea that mankind can use science to achieve anything and portrays a delusional, out-of-touch man who attempts to play God. I hope that you will enjoy this short story.
If you're enjoying this reading from Friendly Frog Press, please make sure to subscribe and hit that like button.
The Triumphs of a Taxidermist by H.G. Wells, narrated by Beauheart. Here are some of the secrets of taxidermy. They were told me by the taxidermist in a mood of elation. He told me them in the time between the first glass of whiskey and the fourth, when a man is no longer cautious and yet not drunk. We sat in his den together, his library it was, his sitting and his eating room, separated by a bead curtain so far as the sense of sight went, from the noisome den where he plied his trade. He sat on a deck chair, and he was not tapping refractory bits of coal with them. He kept his feet, on which he wore after the manner of sandals, the holy relics of a pair of carpet slippers, out of the way upon the mantelpiece among the glass eyes. And his trousers, by the by, though they have nothing to do with his triumphs, were a most horrible yellow plaid, such as they made when our fathers wore side whiskers and there were crinolines in the land. Further, his hair was black, his face rosy, and his eye a fiery brown, and his coat was chiefly of grease upon a basis of velveteen. And his pipe had a bowl of china showing the graces, and his spectacles were always askew, the left eye glaring nakedly at you, small and penetrating, the right, seen through a glass darkly, magnified and mild. Thus his discourse ran. "There never was a man who could stuff like me, Bellows, never. I've stuffed elephants, and I've stuffed moths, and the things have looked all the livelier and better for it. And I've stuffed human beings, chiefly amateur ornithologists, but I stuffed a nigger once. No, there is no law against it. I made him with all his fingers out and used him as a hat rack, but that fool Homersby got up a quarrel with him late one night and spoiled him. That was before your time. It is hard to get skins, or I would have another. Unpleasant? I don't see it. Seems to me taxidermy is a promising third course to burial or cremation. You could keep all your dear ones by you. Bric-a-brac of that sort stuck about the house would be as good as most company, much less expensive. You might have them fitted up with clockwork to do things. Of course, they would have to be varnished, but they need not shine more than lots of people do naturally. Old Manningtree's bald head? Anyhow, you could talk to them without interruption, even ants. There's a great future before taxidermy, depend upon it. There's fossils again." He suddenly became silent. "No, I don't think I ought to tell you that." He sucked at his pipe thoughtfully. "Thanks, yes, not too much water. Of course, what I tell you now will go no further. You know I have made some dodos and a great auk. No, evidently you are an amateur at taxidermy. My dear fellow, half the great auks in the world are about as genuine as the handkerchief of St. Veronica, as the holy coat of Treves. We make 'em of greb's feathers and the like. And the great auk's eggs, too. Good heavens! Yes, we make them out of fine porcelain. I tell you it is worthwhile. They fetch, one fetched 300 pounds only the other day. That one was really genuine, I believe. But of course one is never certain. It is very fine work, and afterwards you have to get them dusty, for no one who owns one of those precious eggs has ever the temerity to clean the thing. That's the beauty of the business. Even if they suspect an egg, they do not like to examine it too closely. It's such brittle capital at the best. You did not know that taxidermy rose to heights like that. My boy, it has risen higher. I have rivaled the hands of nature herself, one of the genuine great auks." His voice fell to a whisper. "One of the genuine great auks was made by me." "No, you must study ornithology and find out which it is yourself. What is more, I have been approached by a syndicate of dealers to stock one of the unexplored skerries to the north of Iceland with specimens. I may some day, but I have another little thing in hand just now. Ever heard of the Dinornis? It's one of those big birds recently extinct in New Zealand. Moa is its common name, so called because extinct. There's no moa now. See, well, they have got bones of it, and from some of the marshes even feathers and dried bits of skin. Now I'm going to, well, there's no need to make any bones about it, going to forge a complete stuffed moa. I know a chap out there will pretend to make the find in a kind of antiseptic swamp and say he stuffed it at once, as it threatened to fall to pieces. The feathers are peculiar, but I've got a simply lovely way of dodging up singed bits of ostrich plume. Yes, that is the new smell you notice. They can only discover the fraud with a microscope, and they will hardly care to pull a nice specimen to bits for that. In this way, you see, I give my little push in the advancement of science. But all this is merely imitating nature. I've done more than that in my time. I have beaten her. He took his feet down from the mantel board and leaned over confidentially towards me. I've created birds, he said in a low voice. New birds, improvements, like no birds that was ever seen before. He resumed his attitude during an impressive silence. Enrich the universe, rather. Some of the birds I made were new kinds of hummingbirds, and very beautiful little things, but some of them were simply rum. The rummest, I think, was the animal Pteryx jejuna. Jejunus, empty, so called because there was really nothing in it. A thoroughly empty bird except for stuffing. Old Javers has the thing now, and I suppose he is almost as proud of it as I am. It is a masterpiece, Bellows. It has all the silly clumsiness of your pelican, all the solemn want of dignity of your parrots, all the gaunt ungainliness of a flamingo, with all the extravagant chromatic conflict of a mandarin duck. Such a bird! I made it out of the skeletons of a stork and a toucan and a job lot of feathers. Taxidermy of that kind is just pure joy, Bellows, to a real artist in the arts. How did I come to make it? Simple enough, as all great inventions are. One of those young genii who wrote us science notes in the papers got a hold of a German pamphlet about the birds of New Zealand, and translated some of it by means of a dictionary in his mother wit. He must have been one of a very large family with a small mother, and he got mixed between the living apteryx and the extinct Anopteryx, talked about a bird 5 feet high living in the jungles of the North Island. Rare, shy specimens, difficult to obtain, and so on. Javers, who, even for a collector, is a miraculously ignorant man, read these paragraphs and swore he would have the thing at any price. Rated the dealers with inquiries. It shows what a man could do by persistence, willpower. He was a bird collector swearing he would have a specimen of a bird that did not exist, that never had existed, and which, for very shame of its own profane ungainliness, probably would not exist now if it could help itself. And he got it. He got it. Have some more whiskey, Bellows, said the taxidermist, rousing himself from a transient contemplation of the mysteries of willpower and the collecting turn of mind. And replenished, he proceeded to tell me of how he concocted a most attractive mermaid, and how an itinerant preacher, who could not get an audience because of it, smashed it because it was idolatry, or worse, at Burslem Wakes. But as the conversation of all the parties to this transaction, creator, would-be preserver, and destroyer, was uniformly unfit for publication, this cheerful incident must still remain unprinted. The reader unacquainted with the dark ways of the collector may perhaps be inclined to doubt my taxidermist. But so far as great ox eggs and the bogus stuffed birds are concerned, I find that he has the confirmation of distinguished ornithological writers. And the note about the New Zealand bird certainly appeared in a morning paper of unblemished reputation, for the taxidermist keeps a copy and has shown it to me. End of story.
If you enjoyed this reading, please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and check out friendlyfrogpress.com, where you can see where our collection of ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks are available. Friendly Frog Press, where the classics come alive. This is Paul Beauheart, signing off.